In the early 16th century, the world stood on the edge of a transformation that would redefine power, wealth, and human history itself. At the center of that transformation was a single, powerful obsession: gold. A metal that symbolized not just wealth, but dominance, divinity, and control. Beyond the known edges of European maps lay civilizations that had mastered art, architecture, astronomy, and governance. They valued gold not as currency, but as something sacred, something spiritual, something deeply connected to their gods. This difference in perception would set the stage for one of the greatest extractions of wealth the world has ever seen. Spanish expeditions began arriving in the Americas, driven by ambition, religion, and an unrelenting hunger for riches. Among these explorers was Hernán Cortés, a man whose name would become synonymous with conquest and calculated ambition. When he arrived in the Aztec Empire, he encountered a society with grand cities, advanced systems, and immense wealth. But what Cortés saw was not civilization, it was opportunity. Through alliances and strategic warfare, he began dismantling the Aztec world. As the empire fell, its treasures were stripped, and sacred objects were melted down into raw gold bars. Further south, another empire awaited, even richer and more expansive: the Inca Empire, stretching across vast mountains and valleys. Into this world stepped Francisco Pizarro, whose methods would prove just as devastating as those of Cortés. When Pizarro encountered the Inca Emperor Atahualpa, he saw not just a ruler, but a gateway to unimaginable wealth. Atahualpa offered to fill a room with gold and silver in exchange for his freedom, and the empire delivered. Objects of spiritual significance were reduced to mere commodities, melted and reshaped for transport back to Spain. With both civilizations dismantled, Spain gained access to an unprecedented flow of wealth through conquest and extraction. What followed was a system designed to continuously extract resources from the New World and funnel them back to Europe. As ships began to carry gold across the Atlantic, the world witnessed the largest transfer of wealth in human history. A new discovery shifted the scale beyond anything imagined. While gold symbolized wealth, it was silver that would sustain an empire. Deep within the mountains of South America, a discovery was made: the mountain of Potosí, the most productive mine in history. What emerged was an industrial-scale system of extraction, relying heavily on forced labor under brutal conditions. As silver poured out of these mines, it was processed, refined, and prepared for transport into a larger logistical system. This included the development of heavily guarded treasure fleets, convoys of ships traveling together for protection across dangerous waters. Between 1516 and 1650, approximately 181 tons of gold and over 16,000 tons of silver were extracted from the Americas. While Spain grew richer, the lands from which this wealth was taken faced long-term consequences that would shape their histories for generations. Silver from the Americas reached markets as far as Asia, becoming a key component of global trade networks and the modern world economy. It was a machine built on systematic extraction, combining ambition, technology, and exploitation into a force that reshaped the global balance of power. As the rivers of silver continued to flow from the mines of Potosí and Zacatecas, the impact of this extraction extended far beyond Spain. It reached far beyond Europe, creating a chain reaction that would ripple across continents and redefine the structure of the global economy. This was not just wealth being moved, it was wealth being redistributed on a scale the world had never witnessed before. As Spanish ships transported massive quantities of silver across the Atlantic, Europe began to experience the phenomenon known as the price revolution. During this period of sustained inflation, the sudden increase in available currency caused the value of money to decline, while the cost of goods rose. This economic shift altered the balance of power, benefiting merchants and trade, while placing immense pressure on the struggling lower classes. The silver did not remain in Europe for long, becoming a key component in a larger global trade network connecting the Americas, Europe, and Asia. At the center was demand from China, where silver had become the primary medium of exchange. European traders used American silver to purchase valuable goods such as silk, porcelain, and spices, linking distant worlds into a single market. In this way, the extraction of silver became the foundation of early globalization, a process driven by conquest and exploitation rather than cooperation. Spain positioned itself at the center, gaining immense wealth to fund wars, expand territories, and assert dominance across Europe. Yet this dominance created dependency. a reliance on imported resources that weakened domestic industries and left the Spanish economy vulnerable. Over time, this imbalance began to show as the very wealth that elevated Spain also contributed to its gradual decline. The Americas continued to bear the cost, as indigenous populations faced ongoing exploitation, their labor fueling the system that enriched distant nations. The desire for wealth drove individuals to cross oceans, topple empires, and build a system that would change the course of history forever. What occurred was not merely a series of conquests, but a coordinated and sustained extraction of wealth that meets every definition of a heist. Unlike traditional robberies, this operation extended over a century, involving 181 tons of gold and over 16,000 tons of silver. Indigenous populations were no longer seen as communities, but as components of a system designed to generate wealth for distant powers. Cultures were erased as temples were destroyed, traditions suppressed, and artifacts of spiritual significance were melted down for economic gain. This loss cannot be measured in tons or monetary value. It represents the loss of identity, of history, and of connection. The greatest heist in history is not just a story of the past, it is a story that continues to influence the present. The greatest heist was not just about what was taken, it was about what was lost, and what continues to be felt today. Subscribe Criminal Verse, where every crime hides a story.